all right, great. All right, so I think we'll start. And as I've seen, people keep on joining when I do these webinars. But we'll start with this. So, give me a second. The topic today is spiritual leadership. ये अंदर की बात है, अपने मन की बात है, हमारे अंदर जाने वाली बात है. That's all what spirituality is all about. So, we'll straight away start. Just give me a second again. Okay. So, spiritual and leadership. There are two words here. One is spiritual, one is leadership. What does spirituality mean is something that we need to talk about. Leadership, there are a lot of literature, a lot of videos, a lot of PPTs, a lot of things that you would have already known about leadership. So that is something which will come as we progress. But the word that is more important here or different here is spirituality. So spirituality and how I have put it up is what makes us human. So what makes us human? That's something we need to understand. Okay, I need to keep shifting because I need to see how many comments are there. I go to my PPT, I don't see here. So kindly bear with me. Okay, what makes us human? So what makes us human is there are certain areas. For example, we need to talk about us being human in the perspective of a relative basis, which is humans versus animals. So what is it that makes us different as a species? What is special about us? We always keep talking about we being the best species. What is different? So, couple of areas. First one is we can introspect. So, a lot of people when I ask this question say, sir, we can think, they cannot. So, I said, think ke andar hi jana hai. We have to go deeper into think. What do you mean by think? So, think generally means I can introspect, I can contemplate, I can be curious, I can imagine, I can create. All of this is thinking. Of course, I can plan, I can strategize, lot of other things. More importantly, I can empathize and sympathize. I can feel thankful to somebody. I can be apologetic to somebody. All of this. So thinking itself is not the word which generally is a right word to say because it is very broad. So these are the areas. Now here in this image as you see, although it is saying something went wrong, well we started as normal animals and we progressed and we developed over thousands of years our societies and a lot of literature. We learned a lot, philosophy, science, a lot of discoveries and invention, much of it, and we proved that we are great. But then who says we are great? Humans. The lions might say we are also great. The deer might say we are also great. Who tells you that you are the greatest? Now a cheetah can run up to 90 miles per hour, or an eagle can fly up to much heights, a couple of kilometers above also. It can look at the ground and see things like in a telescopic vision. The bats have a different kind of a sound. Whales can swim and they are really big, and elephants can pick up weight, and ants can pick up weight 3 to 4 times their body size, and there are animals who can jump much more than their body size, much more times than their body size. We cannot do all of that. As humans, we are not equipped to do that, and so we might think that we are not actually as good as the animals. Animals, maybe not one in all, but many animals in different areas are able to do a lot of things which we cannot do. So that makes us concerned that are we really the best species? But we are the best species on the basis of cognitive, which is think again, which is mind. On the basis of mind, we have developed cranes, we have microscope, telescope, we can fly, we can run, we have a Ferrari, or we can go under the sea in our submarines and whatnot. We have developed everything, almost everything that an animal can do, we can also do as a species. And that makes us great. How we are able to do? Because we have these abilities, as was said in thinking. Right? All of these abilities are there. So then how do we develop them further? How do we go about them further? That's the whole point. How do we make spiritual leadership more relevant here. While we have so many abilities like, as I said, contemplate, thinking, etc., what is spiritual is about contemplating who am I. I can ask this question as a human. Who am I? What is the purpose of my life? Why am I living? What I have to do now? What is the right way and wrong way of living? Is there something called God? Because God is also a concept which came out of my imagination. So, is God there or not? What about the law of karma? I can think that if I have done wrong, there might be something wrong coming my way. It is something instinctive in me. So, the first thing about being human is being instinctive. So, first thing also, therefore, about being a spiritual leader is also, you know, being connected to your instincts. And you read autobiographies or you see videos or you talk to the best of leaders in the industry, whichever industry, which is the corporate industry or the army or any other area, and they will tell you they were very, very strongly connected to their instincts. Everything that they've achieved was not on the basis of their abilities, their skills, their knowledge. Whatever they achieved was on the ability of or on the basis of instincts also. Somewhere they were also confused, as we all are, and they were not able to understand अब क्या करूं, यहाँ से क्या करना चाहिए, or they were in a confusion whether I should think about the company or the employee or me, whether I should give my family a priority or work my priority, or in this case whether this decision will be right and fruitful because it's a risky decision, we don't know what's going to happen, or it's going to be bringing a lot of loss to my organization. So if I'm the owner of the organization, I'm directly connected to that. If I'm the CEO or some president, vice president level person in the company, I would think not only will there be a loss in the company, I might also lose my job. And that brings me into my comfort zone sometimes. But there are people who are able to take that risk, that right decision. Sometimes it goes wrong, but that instinct being very, very strong, they're able to go ahead with that. That is the whole point of spirituality, where instincts really, really help you. And when we talk of instincts, we must talk about this, that God must not have created us and thrown us on earth. जा सिमरन जी ले अपनी जिंदगी. It could not have been like that. कि ठीक है, जितने भी साल जीना है, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 साल, उसके बाद मिलेंगे, अभी तुम जाओ अपने हिसाब से जी लो. It cannot be like that. It cannot be like that. Logically, instinctively, again, it cannot be like that. I know कि ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है. भले कभी कभी मुझे लगता है that God has left me, why me, why is this happening to me and not to him or her? This person is more corrupt and I've done a great job. I've been very honest. Why am I suffering? Why this guy is enjoying? God doesn't love me, or probably there is no God. These sort of things come up, which is obvious. I guess these things will come up. But here, the word that I'm talking about is instinct. When God creates you and sends you on earth, let's talk in that language. There is a Wi-Fi connection that God keeps with you. That Wi-Fi connection is instinct. That's not a very obvious option. That's not like visible. All the time you want to ask something or want to know something, you go to a particular wall or go to a temple or go inside an almirah, pick up a book, and you will be totally guided in that way. It doesn't happen like that. But if you are connected with instincts, there is this gut feeling. There is an inner voice that guides you as a Wi-Fi. It tells you, ये मत कर, ये अच्छा नहीं है. You know that probably when you are doing some little mis-selling to a customer, for example, you know that is right. This customer, I am cheating him. But you justify saying, oh, this is my job. My boss told me, and whatever my boss told me is my job. Although you know this is not the way. राइट समवेयर हिसाब देना पड़ेगा, पर हम सोचते हैं अभी सैलरी आएगी भैया घर चलेगा, हिसाब विसाब बाद में देख लेंगे. बट इंस्टिंक्ट विल टेल यू डोंट डू दिस, और द इंस्टिंक्ट विल टेल यू डू दिस, यू मस्ट डू दिस. That inner voice, that gut feeling, as I said, that intuition also, that Wi-Fi connection God always has with you. The more you use that connection, the more stronger that Wi-Fi connection grows, and it guides you as a GPS in your life. Sometimes it'll guide you into doing something wrong also, because doing wrong, it cannot be a picture perfect life. You'll also not love a picture perfect life. So sometimes you'll do wrong also, but yet you will realize that galat kiya theek hai, but I heard I was free enough. The word is free here. So I was free enough to take a decision and I took. गलत हो गया कोई बात नहीं. To be a slave, even being a CEO of a company, to be a slave is the worst thing to do in your life. At the lowest level or the highest level, if you've taken a decision and gone forward, that's what is freedom. And that is what spiritual leadership is all about, where you're guided from within. Of course, meditation is one way of doing it, and certainly it strengthens your instincts. But otherwise, also, the more you introspect, the more you keep on going inside and saying, who am I? Why am I? What is right? What is wrong? Where is God? Is God there? Is he in me or somewhere else? All these kind of questions will always guide you into taking the right decisions, and more importantly being mentally safe, mentally stable. And that's what we want, right? We might have millions and billions of rupees, but if I'm not mentally stable, I not like it. And somebody will say, oh, you want billions of rupees or dollars, you must enjoy. All right, I don't know, I'm not happy, I don't know why, but yeah, I have so much, I have achieved so much, but something is not complete. Something is there which I want to make me happy, and that is not the good thing you want to be. So you want to be happy, you want to enjoy, you want to be satisfied with whatever you have achieved, and of course, then you want to grow and achieve more. But then you have to be spiritually correct to understand these things. So we're talking of two people here, Arjun and Krishna. When we talk of spirituality, we talk of Bhagavad Gita, we talk of Arjun. 5,000 or whatever thousand years ago, Arjun was also confused like this. ये मेरे भाई है, ये मेरा चाचा है, मेरा पितामह है, मेरा गुरु है, द्रोणाचार्य, कृपाचार्य, etc. How can I kill them? Now, one thing that is good about this is that he knows that he can kill him. Otherwise, this question wouldn't come. So he is very sure about his abilities. He doesn't have a self-esteem issue. He knows that he can kill them, and that's why he's thinking, boss, I know I can kill them, but can I kill? And then he becomes very philosophical to Krishna about all these things. इनको मार दूंगा तो मुझे पाप लगेगा, ये मेरे गुरु हैं, लोग क्या कहेंगे? अर्जुन ने प्रॉपर्टी, जरा सी प्रॉपर्टी के लिए अपने गुरु को मार दिया, अपने दादा को मार दिया, इसको भाइयों को मार दिया. कैसा मिलेगा मुझे? नेगेटिविटी का वाइब्स मिलेगा मुझे, या बहुत सारा लोगों का बद्दुआ मिलेगा. All of those things were there. So even today, the modern day Arjun is confused. So we'll talk about why and where he's confused. So the first one is about his work. Why do you work? So why am I working? For money or for the fact that I want to express my skills? The workplace gives me the opportunity to express my skills. That's the whole beauty about being at work. So am I working? Am I being able to express myself? So that is what work does. Or am I there to earn some money? Because I have to earn money. That's obvious. Is money a priority or work a priority? That whole thing confuses me a lot, because while I might want to work, I don't know if I'm really happy with this job or the earlier job, or maybe I'll be happier with the other job that I'll take up. Something is missing. So that is what he's confused about. Then about his work-life balance, I think very obvious. We all know what is work-life balance. Then third is about clarity of purpose in your life. This is life. मुझे करना क्या जीवन में यार? What do I want to do in my life? What do I want to do in my life? He is very confused about this. While he's working in some IT company or a bank or a FMCG company or whatever, somewhere Arjun is thinking, यार कॉलेज में था तो कभी सोचा नहीं था मैं बैंकर बन जाऊंगा. ये बैंकर मजा नहीं आ रहा है. तो लाइफ लेके चली गई और हम भी चले गए. यार कुछ और करना है यार. And a lot of people do this, right? Amongst us also, a lot of people do this. They leave their jobs, they do what they want to do, they follow their hobbies. But that's not actually a lot of people. That percentage that is not even a small decimal point. It's a very, very, very small decimal point of people, percentage-wise, who really do this. Others just keep dragging themselves, keep slogging themselves. And the problem with Arjun today is somewhere he's accepted that slogging is all right. That's the way it is. That's the way life is. Somebody is not slogging. He's saying, oh, you're not slogging. You're not really working hard. Working hard, slogging. These are all animal things. Animals work hard. Animals, slog. When you're following your passion, when you love your job, you don't work hard. You just work because you want to work and you're very passionate and you love it. So that is also something which is there. Arjun is confused, right? We're talking of Arjun's confusions. The constant battle between mind and heart. All the time there is the battle between मुझे ये करना चाहिए कि ये करना चाहिए. So many times. This is in psychology. This is called cognitive dissonance. Now the point here is Arjun is confused. Like this, Arjun is confused. He feels caught in his job, in his life. Sometimes he thinks, काश मैं ये बटन बंद कर सकता जीवन का, and I could escape. Sometimes you feel, oh my God, I'm really stuck up. What should I do? I don't want to live any further. But well, most of the people are not able to take that last call of suicide or whatever, thankfully. But this is how it is. And then actually it is not like this. Actually it is like this. There is a glass, so you can see something up beyond that glass and you think, oh, I can go there. But the moment I try to get up, the glass hits me. I'm like, oh, there's a case. This is a glass ceiling which is there. And that frustrates me even more. While I'm ready to work, I'm really wanting to work. I really want to do good job. But something is missing. Now here, in terms of spiritual leadership, Arjun is looking for a guide, a mentor in his boss. He cannot go to somebody else. He cannot go to a colleague. Colleagues का सबका सभी अर्जुन का वही हाल है. किसके पास जाएगा? Boss. और आज का boss, well, today's boss is equally confused. So here, this is Arjun. This is his face on a weekend, and this is his face on a Monday, right? अभी आज का boss अलग level पर confused है. बोल रहा है यार employee को motivate करूँ कि productivity ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है. What is more important? I don't know. I don't understand. So today's Krishna is not as clear in his mind as the real original Krishna. Today's boss, today's manager is having his own questions in his life, and in that state of mind, forget about him guiding the Arjun about all the confusions that we talked about just now. So the point is whether the boss should focus on motivation or productivity. Now his heart would say motivation, his mind would say productivity, because productivity will end of the day give him his targets and his money, his salary, his job will be safe. But something inside him says motivate. But then he thinks, I don't know, I don't want to care about motivating, I just want to use a stick because I have the power to use a stick. I'll maybe show a carrot, if they run good, otherwise I'll hit them with a stick and will make them work, because end of the day the organization will run only when there is productivity. I don't care about whether the employee is motivated or not. But the question here is, what do we do with this? What do we do with this situation? What is more difficult to bring about? What is more difficult to bring about? So here, I want to ask my dear friends, can you please tell what is more difficult? Can you please comment here? What is more difficult, productivity or motivation? Can you just give a comment here? As I said, I understand there is a time lag of 10 to 15 seconds, so I'll wait for that. As a leader, what do you think is more difficult, to motivate an employee or to extract productivity from an employee? This wait is the most difficult thing to do in a live webinar. When you know it's a 10-15 second gap and you have to just wait. Okay, I'm hoping for some answers. What do you think is more important? Or sorry, difficult? Okay. If the team is motivated, then automatically productivity will increase. Yes, that is right. Rajesh, this is right. The point is, absolutely, this is the way it is. Yes, Felix, motivation is difficult as there's hardly any time. True. What is more difficult? Yeah, so if Rajesh, you said if the team is motivated, then automatically productivity will increase. But what is more difficult is the point here. I would want the team to be motivated, but as Felix sir said, it is difficult. Who has the time? I have to finish my targets in 1 month and that's it. So keep the team motivated. Yeah, true. Is it easy to do that? So Shalendra says productivity. More difficult. Agreed to an extent. Okay, Vivek says agreed to an extent. My whole point here is, what is more difficult for a leader, because we're talking of spiritual leadership. We're talking of somebody wanting to, let's say, convince somebody. Let's say we're talking of somebody being able to, extract productivity and probably also motivate. A typical leader initially, especially in his initial years of being a leader, will always want to have both. Unfortunately, then what happens is this theory comes in the picture. Because of certain very, very difficult experiences, maybe not very pleasant experiences, he comes to a level where he starts thinking, भाई ये मैग्रेगोर की जो थ्योरी थी एक्स कि एम्प्लॉय काम करने आता ही नहीं है, उसको काम करना ही नहीं, डंडा यूज करो, क्या वो सही तो नहीं है? While I might want that I am also a human being as my subordinate is, and while I want to work, he also must want to work. But the point is must. Point is not should. The point is must. I would want him to come and to work, but my experience over the years, and that's true with all the corporate leadership scenarios, maybe except some rare cases, that this guy is thinking, यार कहीं ये सच में गधे तो नहीं है? क्या वो प्रेशर जो वो बॉस कर रहा है, क्या वो जस्टिफाइड तो नहीं? This is the question that is there in the system, that am I totally being honest to the system? So yeah, Rajesh said motivation is difficult. True. I would want this guy to work. I'll want to give him all the facilities. There is a concept of psychological contract. Psychological contract is, this is the concept in psychology. This is not a real concept, which says that I would want so there is a contract between the employer and the employee at the time of the interview, that we will give you this much salary, which is agreed upon. So that is the salary. We'll give you all the facilities, and the employee has to give all that he can to finish that job. He's told कि ये करना है, तुम्हें 100% करना है, इतनी salary तुम्हें मिलेगी. In most obvious cases, in most normal cases, let's take Corona out of the picture. In generally speaking, the employer never misses his date on giving the salary. He gives all the possible facilities. He gives all the table, chair, computer, maybe an AC, etc. All the facilities and maybe more. Traveling abilities are given, flight or train or lodging. All of the whatever is required is most of the employers are giving, and they're giving and making the payments in time. But what they see is that psychological contract, this contract is not fulfilled by the opposite party fully. He is not giving his 100%. See, effort is more important. Of course, productivity is important. But what is this guy for whom I want to keep a biometric to check whether he's coming to office on time or not? वो बंदा क्या काम करेगा? जिसको ऑफिस आने के लिए बायोमेट्रिक चाहिए, वो बंदा क्या काम करेगा? I don't want that kind of a guy. I don't like that kind of a guy. This is not fair, right? And that is where the stick comes in the picture, because in the first level there is a carrot which also goes in. But the carrot also sometimes becomes, normal. Okay, carrot है तो ठीक है, carrot तो देगा ही ना. The moment the incentive plans are regularly created, after a while, these motivational plans, incentive plans become like ये तो मेरा हक है, एम्प्लॉय ये तो मिलेगा ही ना, इतना काम किया तो इंसेंटिव तो देगा ही ना. नहीं भैया, सैलरी मिल रही है ना, इंसेंटिव क्यों? But then that becomes the order of the day, and then the employer thinks, boss, what the hell? I gave you your salary, I gave you more incentives, at least give your 100%. I can understand if the work is done or not, at least give your 100%. So Rajesh says, this question reminds me of Major Somnath Sharma, PVC. He kept his men motivated. Yeah, army is different. Army is so different. I wish we could use the army rule here. The last slide, I'll talk about it first based on your response, Rajesh. There, the most important word is discipline. Here, डिसिप्लिन के नाम पे थोड़ा सा एक्स्ट्रा करेंगे, चाहे वो स्कूल हो, चाहे वो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हो, मीडिया आ जाएगा, लोग रोने लग जाएंगे. ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स विल स्टार्ट, पीपल विल स्टार्ट क्रिबिंग. So that is not the point here. The point is, yes, it is difficult for us civilians to be a part of that army discipline, but then productivity तो उतनी ही चाहिए. The army discipline has to be so strict because you're telling a guy to risk his life going in the work. Here that much is not there, right? But yes, there is some kind of a negativity. So I'm not trying to favor the boss here, please, right? I'm just saying what I've seen is that most of the times the employer is fair in the psychological contract part, the employee is not. And unfortunately, there is where this thing comes in. Now, we're talking of spiritual leadership. We'll come to that, but let us understand the confusion that modern Krishna has. Krishna को एक ही बात है, भैया मेरी सैलरी मुझे तब मिलेगी या मेरा बिजनेस तब चलेगा जब प्रोडक्टिविटी होगी. I would want this guy to be motivated. I gave him his salary on time. I am giving his incentives and other facilities pretty much as required, as per the best of my abilities. Now, I expect this guy. Now, beyond that, I don't have to motivate him. I don't have to motivate him because this is supposed to be his job now, to work properly. So here, what comes next is personal growth. So modern Krishna is also thinking, भैया मेरा क्या होगा यार, मेरे को भी जॉब करनी है या मेरे को भी बिजनेस चलाना है. What about me? I have to survive. I also have to have basic comforts of life and maybe luxuries also. Why not? So I want my income. I've grown. I've really worked hard and I've grown to a point. And now I want to even grow further. I want to work. I wish I could work alone and finish it off. But this work, as being a boss of 10 people, I cannot do a job of 10 people. So I would want these people to work. Now this confused Krishna, can he be the mentor, guide to the confused Arjun? Is the biggest question today in corporate leadership. And we're talking of spiritual leadership here, because here the Krishna is also as pareshan as the Arjun, unlike the original Krishna who was very, very clear about things. And where Krishna can be clear is what we'll talk about further. So 21st century leadership, we're talking about a difference in 21st century leadership where this person, this leader maybe not as competent as his subordinate, because earlier the bosses used to be 40-45 plus years old, most of the cases. Here you have a 28-year-old guy who's a boss to a 27-year-old person or to a 32-year-old person. So there is a difference in maturity, but probably he did fast, he was running fast and he won the race and he became the boss. So this guy is confused. The subordinate might be smarter. Today, the subordinate, unlike the 20th century subordinate, today's subordinate does a SWOT of his boss. ये कितने पानी में, मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ इसके साथ, ये कितने level तक जा सकता है. So that is there. There are a lot of areas. So we will not go much into the 21st century thing, but surely enough, the whole dynamics of business have changed. The subordinate has become ambitious. He wants results. He really wants them quick. He might be a little ready to go out of the way, the wrong way also, against the boss, against the system, or in most cases against the customer, right? Because the ambitions are very high. And the 21st century leader cannot be a Lalaji type motivator to the earlier times guys, and rather he wants to be an engaged leader, unlike people in earlier times when there was a strict cabin boundary between the subordinate and the bosses, and you would have to knock and you have to, sir, may I come in, sir? 2 minutes, sir. And this guy could always say, go away, I'm talking, or whatever I'm doing. And there was a lot of babu shai in those days, which is absent today. Today, even the boss sits in the same cubicle as the subordinate. So there is no boundary, the psychological boundary also in many cases. So here the leader is not as strong as Rajesh said about the army. Army, there is a clear-cut definition of hierarchy. Here, in today's scenario, there is not. We're talking of virtual organizations, we're talking of boundaryless organizations as a part of organizational behavior, and the whole thing has changed today. So then, spiritual leadership, what do we do? Okay. What do we do here? ये अंदर की बात है, very much. So spiritual leader, okay, just tell me, we'll take a little detour from my PPT. I want your views. What do you think in this scenario? What do you think in this scenario should be the boss's job or his work? What should he do? ऐसे टाइम पे spiritual leadership के point of view से, what are your views about the whole thing? Please tell me. What do you think a boss should do? So again, I'll wait for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, the awkward gap, I will. But the question is, what do you think is spiritual leadership? What do you think in the context of the confusion in Arjun's mind and in Krishna's mind? What should be the spiritual leadership tips you would want to give, considering that a typical boss will want to extract productivity and also try to motivate the employee. He'd want to retain him. He'll not want people leaving the organization, especially the good guys. What should he do? The boss's job has to seem, to provide security. Security, absolutely great. We'll talk about that. More answers, please. Mentoring, yeah. The next slide it starts with mentoring. What else? Security is a big word. We'll talk about this later. Anybody else? So I'll start with security. So yeah, the point is a boss has to give security. Psychologically also this has been proved in parenting also. And I always say, especially in my parenting lectures also, parenting and leadership in corporates, there are a lot of common areas. So here you have to give that sense of security. For example, in case of a parenting, you have to give that sense of security to a child. कि बेटा तू कुछ भी करके आ, मैं बैठा हूँ तो चिंता मत कर. On the same hand, then you have to also give those sanskar to the kid so that he doesn't make those mistakes on a social level, social protocol level, or for himself. But then once you're sure of the sanskar that you've given, you can say tu chinta mat kar, mistakes sabse hoti hai, mujhse bhi hoti hai. You can talk about your mistakes in his age and then give that sense of security. Can the boss also do that? Especially when he's seeing the X theory being more popular. Alright. So, and make the employee realize that his fulfillment of his goals would actually lead to realization. Absolutely. I'll just come to that. This is so nice. To remind the employee about his lack in job outcome, and at the same time provide him a job security. Now that's the whole point, Varnit. This is the most difficult thing. To remind the employee that he's not doing a good job, he has to do a good job, and yet to tell him that your job is secure. What is happening in government jobs? People know my job is secure, even if I've done a good job or not, my job is secure, and you know then what is happening there. So that discipline has to be maintained. Now, how do you maintain that discipline along with providing the sense of security? एक तरफ आप उसको डांट रहे हो, आज का बॉस क्या कर रहा है, नौकरी से निकाल दूंगा, वो वैसा बोल रहा है क्योंकि उसको डरा के काम करवा रहा है. बट देन यहाँ पे ये जॉब सिक्योरिटी वाली जो बात आती है वो मोटिवेशन की बात आती है. So my point here is the young lad who's become a manager today, which we see a lot today these days. Is that young lad really equipped? Is he really mature? Has he seen enough world to be able to create that perfect balance between discipline and that scare or that pressure of pressure is the wrong word, but that force of getting the work done, that thing that he has to ensure that the work should be done and still discipline. How does he create that balance, which is so difficult? So X theory is popular with leaders in certain situations only. Yeah, very true, Vivek sir. बिल्कुल सही है. So, but somewhere in my corporate experience, in whatever I do, corporate trainings, wherever I go, wherever I talk, on my own 12 years of work X, somewhere I've seen the bosses wrongly, I'm sure wrongly, have maybe through certain bad experiences, not very good experiences I should say, have come to a point where they've started believing that theory X is right. And that is what has to change, and that's where spirituality will come in the picture. While we talk in the next 2 slides about what is spiritual leadership, we need to understand that as a young guy, maybe I'll say even up to 35 years of age, except some rare cases, most of these guys are very young to be able to take up such huge responsibilities, right? They're very, because of that age, they're very, it is very easy for them to throw people out of their jobs or to create that kind of a pressure. And once by that time the whole routine sets up, then even the age of 50 they're doing the same things, because that's a trend that has set. So they're not used to handle pressure. Yeah, because they are not used to. Such a young guy, man or a woman, is not really equipped to handle that kind of a pressure. But then the organizational structure has become today such that people at that young age will become bosses. So then what do? How do we inculcate those spiritual values? But the thing is, we have to clear the confusion in the boss's mind. That is the first thing. The clarity of purpose, the empathy part, all of those things have to be there. And then only we can talk of a great leadership example. Or otherwise, there will always be rare people which will quote somewhere in some WhatsApp or some video we'll share. So to get him to realize that his job is important for him and his family for day-to-day need, yes. So if he will not give results, superb. Varniji, superb. Couple of things that all of you have said are part of next slide. So much of it we can quickly go through also. Spiritual leadership. We have to talk about this. Gita talks about Sharir Nashwar hai, tum amar, Atma amar hai, Swadharma, etc. And we say, what the hell, yaar, leave it, yaar. Tum kaam pe dhanda ko yaar, target nahi ho raha hai, kya Atma ki baat kar raha hai. But the fact is that all of this, brings a lot of clarity. And somewhere, when we're talking of spiritual leadership, I can understand all of this language, this thou art, or tattvamasi, aham brahmasmi. You cannot use it in the corporate, unfortunately. But then the concept has to be clear that who am I? I am Anurag? No, my name could have been anything. I could have been born in any family. I could have lived any particular way of life. I could have studied or not studied. My hands can be cut right now, legs can be cut, but still I will be me. I'll not be, I'm half me. It's not like that. There is something in me which is constant, which saw myself as me 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and will see as myself 20 years or 30 years ago, and I don't even know that I'll live for 20 or 30 years more, or even more. I don't know that. I am not this body. It is a great realization. It cannot come just now. It has to be a proper training which has to go. It has to be a proper talk which has to go. It has to be a total insertion of certain ideas where people realize यार मैं इतना टेंशन ले रहा हूँ इस अनुराग के लिए. अनुराग तो कल होगा भी नहीं तो पता नहीं चलेगा. It could be anybody. It could be like मेरा सिर पे चोट लगे और मैं बोलूँ मैं कौन हूँ, and I might be in some other place living a different life. My wife might be searching कहाँ चला गया मेरा पति, शायद मर गया होगा. So it has to be understood that even then in that life, मैं कौन हूँ वाली life, I will say मुझे प्यास लगी है. मैं कौन हूँ, मैं ये हूँ, मैं हूँ. I am sleeping, I got up, I am drinking water, I am eating food, I am doing some work. So I am जो है, that is irrespective of the material identity that I am, that I take up. And because, well, I always say that somewhere we've all gotten diluted. India has been blessed with so much spiritual wisdom from so many religions. I don't think any other country has so many religions developing here, so many religious philosophies developing here, and yet हम लोग पानी में रहकर भी सूखे हैं. There is so much literature. Every religion has developed itself in its own way here, and yet we're not. And they're talking the same thing, right? But then we don't want to talk about it. We want to talk about Philip Kotler. We want to talk about I don't know, some other people, right? We try to get some theories from there, and that's what is the unfortunate part. We need to understand this. This statement is actually for me. If I can get a one day with somebody, I can really make this person start thinking कि यार मैं गलत तरीके से जीवन जी रहा हूँ यार. This is not the way I have to live. This whole anger, this whole insecurity, this productivity versus motivation debate, all of this can be settled, and is not settled because I'm sitting in the wrong car. I have to sit in the right car. This car is going somewhere else, and this car itself is wrong. I have the ability to understand these things, and I deserve a much better car in terms of quality and a better road. I'm on the wrong direction. And when this thing comes up, then you don't need all these Vedas and Upanishads and Bible and Quran. Then your inside will tell you what you have to do. That instinct that I talked about in the beginning, and that's what spiritual leadership is about. We'll talk about it as we go further. So, law of karma. What does it say? As you sow, so shall you reap. We know that, and still, to keep our jobs, we do wrong things, or maybe we do other wrongdoings. And that is a big question mark. When you are through with the first one, the first question, who am I? You don't need to be taught law of karma, right? Here we're talking of enhancing the ability of a leader so that this guy can become a great mentor to the subordinate. जो बंदा खुद कंफ्यूज्ड है यार, अंदर से टोटली टूटा हुआ है, he doesn't know what he has to do. All that confusions about what is the purpose of my life and what about my personal life and what about work life balance, जो अर्जुन का वो भी इसका है. They're all sailing in the same boat, just that वो boat थोड़ा सा आगे चल के बॉस बन गई, बाकी दोनों में कोई फर्क नहीं है. क्या वो गाइड करेगा यार? और गाइड नहीं करेगा तो फिर काम कैसे हो? This whole negativity, this whole pressure in the corporate sector, there is a solution which is spirituality. We'll go further. निष्काम कर्म. Now निष्काम कर्म बहुत डिफिकल्ट है यार. कर्म कर, फल की चिंता मत कर. कैसे नहीं कर भाई? मेरे को EMI क्लियर करना है, कैसे नहीं करूं? चिंता तो करनी पड़ेगी, पैसा तो कमाना है. But that is the paradox. This is paradoxical, and we've seen this, that when I run behind excellence, when I just work because I love to work, and then there are hugely successful people, and again you read them autobiographies, you talk to them, and they'll tell you that हमने तो सोचा नहीं था हम वहां पहुंच जाएंगे, हमको काम करने में मजा आता. Of course there was like, निष्काम कर्म is not that you don't have goals. That doesn't, बहुत wrongly self किया गया है. You have goals, but your focus is on work. When your focus is on work, you can be a role model to the subordinate also. You know that seva word which is written here, as we'll talk about servant leadership. Servant leadership is not about being a servant. Servant leadership is about, being a seva person in the organization as a leader and as a subordinate and as a leader to the subordinate, right? You're working because, you know what, I for example, there's so many cases, but these days I've been having this meditation and Bhagavad Gita workshops morning and evening. Trust me, when I finish this workshop of half an hour, I get them do meditation and talk about Bhagavad Gita. After the half an hour, I feel so complete. I'll be very frank. There are a couple of people who with whom the structure is that they'll make the payment every day just after the lecture is over or after in a few hours. A couple of people have not paid, but it feels so complete. It feels so complete after doing that yes, you need money, and of course I'm following up. But if I had all the money in the world, I wouldn't have asked them, because it really feels so good when you work from inside, and when you love to do what you love to do, and you really are doing it thinking about the stakeholder, which is the person opposite. For example, you guys in this case right now. So when you're doing it for them, that passion automatically comes out, and you feel so satisfied that at least for some time, it doesn't matter whether you got the results for it. You don't think about the phal. It is not about you should think that phal ki chinta nahi karni. It is that when you work with that feeling, you yourself don't want any phal. And obviously the law of karma is infallible. Whatever you work, good or bad, equal kind of results will come. That's a system, default system setting. You can't change it. Nobody can change it. So whatever you've done will come. But the fact is, when you do work with that kind of a passion, things automatically come up. They just come, and that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful, right? This can only be, and Bhagavad Gita also says that this thing, ये पढ़ने से नहीं होगा. ये जब करोगे ना एक बार, तभी समझ में आएगा कि ये क्या बोल रहे हैं. And I can say this, I've always or known this for a long time, but off late ये सुबह शाम का जो practice चल रहा है, from that I can tell you that this is so beautiful. This is so awesome. Really, it is awesome, right? This, when a leader does this, it becomes so much of a role model kind of an example for the subordinate. Self-actualization. So self-actualization, we all know what is self-actualization, that Maslow's theory. But self-actualization को थोड़ा सा wrongly sell किया गया, उसको spiritual बोला गया. Maslow कुछ और बोला था. उसकी papers भी मेरे पास पड़े हैं, research papers. I read them. What he said about it. He created 2 more layers in spiritual leadership, by the way. There were 7 in his last research paper that he did before he just died. There were 7 levels, where in the 6th and the 7th there was a spiritual angle. Actually, what self-actualization is, self-actualization, to actualize yourself, to actualize your whole potential, to want to be or to give your best, to want that I want to really do a great job. I want to complete myself by doing work. Work completes me. I cannot sit at home thinking I don't want to work and I don't like it. I will not like it. I will have to work. It gives me a feeling of completeness. That is what self-actualization is, which says that it is your dharma. So here is what Gita is saying, Swadharma. Dharma is not religion. Dharma is your farz. आपका फर्ज क्या बनता है? Your duty, right? Dharma is saying, or Swadharma is saying, what self-actualization is saying, that you have that innate, inner, natural ability to do your best. And what Maslow also said was that if you will not have that feeling of self-actualization, that will remain the biggest reason of sadness in your life. Now, if a boss can lead by example like this, like in case of army, Rajesh, what you said, I'm sure the army, the captains or the officers are real life examples of self-actualization. When people look at them doing this, they say, boss, इन्हीं की तरह बनना है. They are so loyal to their captains. They are so loyal to the captains. Captain ने बोलेगा उधर जा, वो उधर जाएगा, वो सवाल नहीं करेगा. Not because he's having a fear, but the captain has set such a beautiful example of his own for that. So that is what this guy can do, right? Okay, so go further. Let me just see if there is some comment. In this case, won't I be considered as a passive person? People start. Oh yes, that is a good question. That when I kind of become a boss who's saying, nishkam kar, karm kar. I think because I saw the comments a little late. I guess Felix sir, this is the context in which you're saying. So nishkam karm ka jo baat hai, it is not that people can take advantage of you, because now here is the point. I have thought a lot about this, because when I read about nishkam karm, this question obviously comes to you. What I've understood out of this is that when you're good, people want you. You have to create that line. Nobody here, Bhagavad Gita or anybody says that you work like बिल्कुल ही सब कुछ छोड़ दो, काम हो गया, चलो पेमेंट नहीं आएगा, चलेगा जी, चलो जी, ओके जी, बाय जी, अरे अगली बार दे देना, देख लेना. Not that. You have to create that discipline part in you. But when you are too good, then people want you. And when people want you, they'll themselves have that thing about not cheating you or not taking advantage of you, because they don't want to lose you. And that's what I tell a lot of times in my trainings also, when people ask me this question, that say, if you are good, you are not to be scared of losing your job. Nobody can take your job. Whatever kind of a Hitler boss, people say it like that. So Hitler boss you might have, nobody will change your will be able or have the courage to throw you out of the job, because you're too good. So that's the whole point. When you're too good is when that nishkam karm feeling also comes. First of all, as I said, when you are really doing that seva kind of a thing in your work, the results will follow. But the quality, because you're not working for money, the quality is so good that somewhere people are saying, बंदे में कुछ तो है यार, कुछ तो है इसमें. He is always ready. He is always ready for work. He is always ready for doing things out of the way. कभी भी बुलाएंगे आ जाएगा, वो सब है. But then I don't want to pull the rope so much that the rope breaks. वो मुझे ध्यान रखना है, because ये चला गया तो फिर आएगा भी नहीं, because ये इमोशनल लोग ही होते हैं. They cannot be the so-called professional people. These people are very emotional, and people can see this कि इसके साथ अगर मैंने थोड़ा भी beyond the point खींचा इसको, ये निकल लेगा. I don't want to do that. So that's my answer. That's what I've understood and experienced in my life, that if you are really good, people will not take advantage of you. And certain times when you see people take advantage of you, you can put your foot down and say, no, this is wrong. And then maybe the person comes to the feeling that नहीं यार ये तो गलत है, ये तो ऐसे डरा रहा है, वो डर जाएगा. The point is, we don't want to go beyond that point. The point is, we don't want to go and take a risk कि एक बार फुट डाउन करके तो देखो, मुझे लगता है मैंने फुट डाउन किया, बॉस अथॉरिटी में वो निकाल देगा. ऐसा नहीं है. Once you do that, certainly enough, this boss, if he is not able to understand things, he will be able to certainly come down on the ground and say, अच्छा ठीक है बाबा, तू रहे, तेरे को क्या चाहिए तू बोल, तू जा मत. This I am sure in the corporate sector we've all seen this life. People do it like this. The point is, you have to be good. That is in your job. That is the first requirement here. Intrinsic, I think we've talked about that also as we have grown through this. All I can say here is, there is research which proves that intrinsic motivation is better than extrinsic. You have to motivate a person on intrinsic level, and that is where you have to do this. That as somebody said also, as Varnita Singh said, yeah, I think Varnit said that you have to tell this guy, my dear friend, you do your best, बाकी मैं बैठा हूँ, तू चिंता मत कर, तेरी जॉब की चिंता मत कर, तू बस तेरा काम कर. Once that happens, when a person is intrinsically motivated, he might actually also not want extrinsic motivation. So that is the point here. And the research says extrinsic motivation brings more harm than the intrinsic motivation, or rather intrinsic has not brought any harm ever. Extrinsic motivation is more costly and it brings harm to the organization, to the employer, to the boss, to the subordinate. There's a full research. I've got research papers to prove that this is what the research says. So extrinsic motivation, that carrot and stick, will never work in real life. Ultimately you have to bring in intrinsic motivation. As Felix sir said, time नहीं है, बिल्कुल सही बात है. But it is not about time, it is about you being the role model here. All of those things here that we talked about on in this slide, you have to be the role model here, and the person will follow. And if he doesn't follow, then he, after a point, after a lot of inputs, he can be shown the door. And once you show a door to somebody, people will understand कि नहीं यार काम अच्छे से करेंगे, ये बॉस हमेशा ध्यान रखेगा, पर beyond the point indiscipline होगा, then this boss doesn't take any indiscipline here. So the thing here is we have to be a counsel, mentor. The point is Swadharma. Swadharma, I'm going a little fast now, this is the last slide. So Swadharma is about excellence की पीछे भागो, कामयाबी चकमार के पीछे आएगी. Swadharma is your own thing, that from inside, your excellence. See, somebody is good in music, somebody is good in cooking, somebody is good in sales, somebody is good in IT, somebody is good in rare cases but HR. So certain cases, right? So the point is, we are different. We are not like a herd of zebras कि शेर आया और सब भाग गए, या कुछ भी हुआ सब एक ही तरीके से react कर रहे हैं. We are humans. We are all different, and that's the beauty of us as a species. Now then, when we are different, we have to understand everybody has a different skill. Now the spiritual point here is that a leader must understand and guide that you have a particular skill because that is linked with the purpose of your life. If you are good in singing and you're really really good in singing, not that you think you are good in singing, if you're really really good and you got a lot of appreciation, probably you wanted, or maybe this is the purpose of your life, because everybody has been given at least one excellence. There are more, but one thing that nobody can compete with him there. That is what you have to extract from a leader. Now, I'm not talking about singing, but a mentor has to go to that level where he's telling, or he's discovering, he is making the subordinate discover himself, his skills, and that is, leveraged with the work. That is the synergy that we have to create. That is the kind of, my job and my this is company's requirement from the subordinate, and subordinate is told बेटा तू ये करेगा तो तेरा ग्रोथ होगा, राइट? ये दोनों को लेवरेज करके सिनर्जी अगर क्रिएट की जाए, so that is what we talked about seva, we talked about net giver. Net giver is you focus on giving, taking का कॉलम अपने आप बन जाएगा, अपने आप बढ़ जाएगा. Why don't you focus on giving? Because that's what you can do. As a human, it gives you a lot of satisfaction and completeness when you give something to somebody. That's what humans can do, animals cannot. That's what separates us from animals. So can we be a net giver here? That is the whole crux of this particular point. Can I leverage the synergy, my goals and company's goals? This is not what that a subordinate will do. This is what a leader will have to do, and he'll have to empathize to a level with his subordinate. And empathy is spiritual in nature, that he empathizes and realizes, yeah, iski ye wali. So we know Belbin's 9 roles, right? All of us, most of us are trainers. We will know Belbin's 9 roles, how a leader should identify whatever capacity a particular subordinate has and focus on that, maybe give work accordingly and pep him up on that area. And that's what a leader has to do. And Felix sir, very rightly you said we don't have time. But I think that's what a leader has to do. He will have to take out time. He doesn't have to sit in the cabin and look at the internet. He has to take out this much time, that he has to focus and empathize and connect with every subordinate, and rest, the subordinate will run. He'll run like mad. आप उसको वो मौका तो दो. Sense of security, very true. Ganguly gave that sense of security to Dhoni. So even after 4 failures, he was given a chance, and a 5th attempt was all that he needed, and then the rest is history. Ganguly, of course, has created a team of a different scale, of a different level, and that's what he's always done. He's given chances to people. While people here, as an audience or spectators, we would have said, "निकाल दो उसको टीम में से यार." But Ganguly knew कि बंदा अच्छा है. अगर उसने identify कर लिया है, this guy is good. Then he realizes on a huge platform, it'll take time for him to settle. I know he will do, and that sense of security is there. But if it is not happening, so this is what a leader has to be able to identify कि इस बंदे की नीयत में तकलीफ है, कि इसकी लेट्स से इसकी नीयत और काबिलियत में तकलीफ है, या इसका थोड़ा सा समय खराब चल रहा है, थोड़ा टाइम खराब चल रहा है. I'll give him more support. I'll keep my hands below him and make him grow. I'll push him up. But if this guy is having a problem with his attitude, then certainly, thank you very much, bye bye. That's what the leader has to do. What's in for me? Again, the leader has to say, भैया कंपनी ग्रो करेगी. बंदा बोलेगा यार वो तो तेरी कंपनी है, मेरे लिए क्या है? What is in for me? So that's also a part of empathy, spiritual leadership, where the leader doesn't talk about what I want from you. तेरे को क्या मिलेगा उससे? तू ये कर, तेरे को इससे ये मिलेगा. That is very common today, but that's spiritual. That's what we ignore. The spiritual की क्या बातें करते हो? ये spiritually तो है. To think about what's in for me. And a neta needs to be a good abhineta. So here the word is sthit prabhe. This statement came from my first boss, and I really regard him very high in my life. He always used to say, and when I became a branch manager in Kotak, he came and met me once, and he told me this thing, and I remembered this always, that a neta or a leader has to remember गुस्सा कितना भी आ रहा है, impatience कितनी भी हो रही है, भले अभी मेरे बॉस ने मुझे गाली निकाली है, but then I have to be a Neil cunt. I have to keep it here. I don't want to go it, percolate it down to my subordinates. So that is what sthit pragya. The word here is sthit pragya or sthir buddhi or balance of mind. This is all that it is about. I think this image about self control, little funny, but it certainly says a lot about what this is. So I think it is 1 hour complete. We can have a little bit of discussion, but as far as my PPT is concerned, we're certainly through with it. Anything anyone wants to say? Direct give and take. Absolutely give and take. First give and take. Varnit, absolutely right. बस ये आपने जो लिखा वो सही है. गिव एंड टेक ही हमेशा बोला भी ऐसे जाता है, टेक एंड गिव कोई नहीं बोलता है. द फैक्ट ऑफ बीइंग अ नेट गिवर, द फैक्ट ऑफ कर्म कर फल की चिंता मत कर, द फैक्ट ऑफ सर्वेंट लीडरशिप और सेवा भाव एट वर्क, इट इज ऑल अबाउट गिव फर्स्ट. एंड टेक में आपको खड़े ही नहीं रहना पड़ेगा हाथ ऐसे करके, वो आएगा ही आएगा. दैट्स अ सिस्टम डिफॉल्ट. पीपल विल आल्सो वैल्यू यू, पीपल विल आल्सो अंडरस्टैंड, एंड दे विल सर्टेनली वांट थिंग्स टू कम बैक टू यू. So that's how it goes. So anything anyone wants to say, let's have something from you and we'll talk about it. Anything you want to finish it off with. Anybody, anything? So the summary, in the meantime, the summary basically is this, that so okay, Felix sir, good presentation. Thank you. Thank you very much. So just as I was summarizing, the summarizing would go it like this, that spiritual leadership is all about first understanding yourself, your abilities, doing your own SWOT, being very honest with you, and more importantly understanding that all the greed that I have in my life is about this body. This body is today, it's there, tomorrow it may not be. We don't know how this is going to be. We need to be more focused about giving, and that giving will only happen when that feeling of who am I am there to give. There's no problem. Tomorrow I might live a very good life or a very bad life, and beyond that, a couple of years later, I might, if it is a bad life, 2 years later, 2 years further, I might have a great life, and this bad life or a difficult life will just become a memory. This is how life has been for all these years. If you introspect it, spiritually speaking, if you introspect it, you see that you went through the best and the worst times, and yet you know that these are not permanent, and yet you know that you were an observer, a darshak as they say. You were an observer in all of this, and tomorrow also therefore you will be observer. What will change? Why do we need to control things? Why don't we let it go? We just let it go, and then we keep on working. We work, but then first we let it go. We give, and then we talk about taking. That is what the spiritual aspect about life is. And my last statement here would be that you know the Arjun is confused, the Krishna is confused. Somewhere something managements have to do to make the Krishna clear so that he can make the Arjun clear. Otherwise, yes, there will be corporate stress, but there will be a lot of attrition, there will be a lot of problems, and an employee will say, including this Krishna who is also an employee generally, कि मेरे को जितनी सैलरी मिल रही है उतना काम करूंगा और ये सामने वाले गधे हैं और मैं डंडा यूज करूंगा. And that will not be very, very good. That's not the way it has to be, especially in these COVID times. There has to be a lot of empathy. Empathy कौन कर सकता है? जो खुद अपने आप से empathize कर पा रहा है, जो अपने आप में फुल है, वो जिसके पास 100 रुपया है वो ही किसी को 100 रुपये दे सकता है. That's how it works. मेरे पास 100 रुपया नहीं है, मैं किसी को कैसे दूंगा? But that subordinate needs that 100 रुपया from you. You need to have that 100 रुपया or more so as to give him that thing that he wants. So that's what leadership is all about. It is all about caring for this person. It is all about sharing with this person his experience and being a clear-minded role model, a self-actualized role model, intrinsically motivated role model for his team. So thank you Mangesh, Mamta ma'am, thank you Vik sir, lots of learning. Thank you so much. I am really happy with all these comments. Anything anyone wants to add, or maybe we can call it a day? Anything? So one thing before, in case somebody puts up, I just recall one more thing is there. There is a concept of learning organizations. An organization which is a learning organization, where there is always a willingness to learn because you have to excel, you learn. That organization is always a growing organization. Or in case of a small team, if a leader like my boss in Reliance did this, morning 9:30 was the time to report to the office. We all used to report at 9:10, and 9:10 to 9:30 we used to have this morning coffee. We were six people in the team. 4 of us were not from the finance industry. This was Reliance Mutual Fund. Mutual Fund का कुछ भी पता नहीं था. This boss used to call us 20 minutes before. ऐसा नहीं कि 9:30 से बाद में लेक्चर शुरू करेगा. 20 minutes. He used to have such an engaged learning on mutual funds that within 2 months we were pros. We were pros because हम मार्केट में जाते थे, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर्स को मिलते थे. शुरू के दिनों में हमको पता नहीं होता था बुलियन क्या होता है, स्टॉक मार्केट में क्या होता है, क्या नहीं. We didn't know anything about anything, right? And 2 months people used to really appreciate कि Reliance के जो relationship managers हैं, they're really good. They know so much for their age and experience. They know so much. That's what this learning organization, or again a giving, right? You're giving as a boss. You're giving knowledge and skills, and you're making the subordinate more and more powerful. And that's what a subordinate needs. And if you've done that, the subordinate is always and always loyal to you. So ठीक है, I think thank you Rajesh, thank you Vik sir, thank you very much. I think we'll call it a day now. Thank you for sparing your Sunday, 1 hour plus on a Sunday. God bless you. We'll catch up next time. Bye bye.